This conference will now be recorded.
Oh, we lost one. Looks like it. Like as a condition of his employment. As a child. I hate technology.
All right, it is 9:42. Everyone silence their cell phones and stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everyone to the Board of Commissioners meeting. Is there anyone here for public comment? Anyone for public comment? Anyone for public comment? Hearing none, we will move on to approval of the agenda. Rachel, do you have anything to add to it?
Nothing.
Commissioner Krause?
No, sir, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Milbrat?
Yes, can we move for presentations, can we move explore Waseca presentation up to just before the consent agenda?
All right. Commissioner Christopherson?
No, sir, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Mulder?
Nothing from your chair, thank you.
Michael?
No, sir.
Beth?
No.
Someone who's taking place for the one? So that's on record.
That's good.
I already tried.
Oh, whoops.
I don't care.
I don't care, it's not a place.
Oh.
She wants Chinese, but it's not open. July.
July.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know, small towns.
July. Anyone?
You should all be in the apartment for.
At noon?
We will be.
Noon to 1:30.
Noon 1:30. Start with me.
Well, we'll just leave it TBD evidently. So with that being said, I'll look for a motion for the amended.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Milbrat, second by Commissioner Christopherson. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval of the county board minutes. Joint ditch meeting minutes, April 16th, 2024. Waseca County Board of Commissioners meeting minutes, June 21st of 2024. Waseca County Board of Commissioners meeting minutes, June 4th of 2024. And Waseca County Board of Commissioners meeting minutes, June 5th, 2024.
Chair, I would move them as a slate.
And is there a second?
What do I got here? I gotta look at this.
Was there a correction that you noticed that I did not?
What the heck do I got here? Now that says June 18th, so that doesn't make sense.
That's not on this one. Be the next round.
When did you print it, Doug? Okay, so did you do some changing? Yeah, I printed this off a couple days ago and there was a correction. You just had the meeting starting, or the work session meeting at 9:30 a.m. That was 8. But
Oh,
that
sure.
was June 18th, and now you don't have them on the agenda.
What's on there? What do you have pulled up?
I have 4/5/21 and April 16th.
So how did I print that off?
I just downloaded this like 5 minutes ago.
Well, we wouldn't have had a commissioners meeting on the 4th and the 5th. We had a work session.
That's not accurate. Can you go back and try it again? Or can I just send you this?
Sure.
'Cause I don't know what you're asking.
I might have the wrong one.
We had a work session and we had a board meeting on the 4th. Okay, the work session was on the 5th.
Yeah, the work
Yeah,
session
this is
was the
not, I don't know where
EDC
this
on
is
the
from.
5th.
Yep.
This is
And
Tell me
this
what you got.
is EDA structure. June 18th, Public Works budget. Well, I thought I printed it off of the agenda that I was going through.
Mhm.
What changed? I don't have a correction.
I'm re-uploading, so just hang tight.
We're checking really quick, Commissioner.
Okay. Well, there it is.
The minutes themselves say the 18th,
Yeah, the minutes say the 18th.
and the front sheet says the 21st.
Oh.
Okay.
That's-
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but what Michael had pulled up wasn't even
That's
accurate,
not-
so I'm just double checking.
It's not the latest and greatest.
21st would have been a
Okay, give it a whirl now.
Yeah, that's the one. Supposed to be the 21st.
No, try it again.
Should be Monday, the 24th, Michael, that we had that special meeting.
Those minutes are not on here. No. Those will be in the next meeting for sure.
Why is it not going over?
So June 18th was the
Can you
board
get
at
those
9:30 and the board of appeal
Oh, grab. Can we grab from the front? 'Cause I didn't-
And we had a work session that morning.
Yeah, I don't know. It might be me. My computer's not wanting to give me the new one, I guess.
Thank you.
All right.
Did someone print this from your computer?
Not me,
Me.
not me, although I could because I have the
You do?
printer on my computer.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, so I am, yeah, so that June 18th work session was the correction that I was looking
And you want to change the timeline?
at. Yeah. So I would move those approved as a slate with that correction.
I would accept that as a friendly amendment since I have a motion on the floor.
Oh, I'm
Right.
sorry.
No, that's okay. You're not stepping on my toes.
Okay.
We work together on this.
So we have the motion with the amendment, is there a second?
I'll second.
I don't know. I can't get it to pull up.
We have a motion by Commissioner Walter, a second by Commissioner
I'm sitting here
Christopherson.
looking
If
at
there's no other discussion, all those in favor, aye.
I,
Those opposed, same sign.
Doesn't
That motion
exist.
carries. Next, we are going to move the Explore Waseca presentation up ahead of the consent agenda. John? Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for your time this morning. Fortunately, I'm going to have to leave shortly after, and so somewhere along the lines, I want to find out where lunch was.
Fair enough.
Clear that's a critical issue. Where I missed, I guess. So, a little over a year ago, I came with a proposal related to a grant that the HPC of the city was working on, and this idea to begin this process of creating a website/app that could be used as a historical tour, but also it had other dimensions to it. And I'm back again to report a little bit of an update and also ask for the county's continued support as we continue into our second year of building the project. So I'll give you a brief tour of the tour, I guess we could say. It is now a live website in hopes that very soon it will become a live app that will be able to be free downloaded and allow for a person to sit right here and be given directions to walk across the street. And as soon as they get within range of the Veterans Memorial, a narrator will begin to tell them about the Veterans Memorial, as well as show them access to a wide range of other information about that. But if I could have, let's go to, there's just an introduction to it, and this is live. You could go to this on your own time now, but if we could just go to the tours on the bottom. And just to give you a brief introduction, notice that it's now Discover Waseca Tours as compared to Explore Waseca. We kind of really got on board with Discover Waseca Tourism, and we have worked with not only your support as a county, but the school district, as well as the city, as well as Discover Waseca Tourism have all combined together. And I'm not sure if you remember, part of your stipulation of support, and rightly so, was if everybody else is on board. And very much so, and on board yet again this year to continue the support of it. And the history tour is where we're going to spend a moment, but before we go there, just to let you know, we are in the process of also creating a tour of the schools. And if you scroll up slightly or down, sorry, we're going to do one of the parks of the county. Brian, as well as the city parks director, are working with our person that's going to create a tour of our parks. There'll be one of the restaurants, also of the shops. There's a couple others that are added. So this becomes more than just the history one. Obviously, that's where I've spent a very big portion of my time, and the students have spent an amazing amount of time and done a fantastic job. But this has potential to be really, really not only the front side of it from an educational perspective from our students, and ideally, it would be really cool if we could incorporate other schools in the county as well. But not only from that side of it, but also the benefit that the website and the app becomes for people visiting Waseca or residents of Waseca that want access to any information to relate to any of those topics, as well as a calendar of events throughout the year, as well as attractions like Farm America and other types of places people would want to go when they come to Waseca. So that's just a brief introduction, but let me just really give you one sample. If you click on the history one, there's, and we can start the tour. And this is the website version of it, and the app would be what I'll show you in just a second, actually. But if you click in the upper right, Michael, that little one more over, that's the tour stops that have now been created. And these are live, and these are available. And I'll just show you one example. As much as I'd like to walk you through all of them, I'll let you do that on your own time. But if we scroll down just to show the whole list, there's the ones that currently are created and are live. A really cool sampling of a wide range of different parts and aspects and places in Waseca history, and including some incredibly important, significant people and their contributions. But if you would go to higher up on there is the Don Eustace Memorial. So students kind of took ownership of each of these different major events or people or whatever it might be. And as I said, the way that the app is driven, that if you're walking around this area, if you were in Trowbridge Park, the narration would kick in. And you're like, well, why do we need narration? Because if you scroll further down on that, that's exactly what the narrator will read. You're like, well, why bother with narration? Well, the narration serves the purpose of if a person is walking, they don't have to then sit and read it. They can listen while they're walking to experience the courthouse or the Veterans Memorial or Hoffman Apiaries or this really, really cool tour stop that a student did on Don Eustace. So if you would continue to scroll, I'll just give you a sample. This is a typical, and the kids are not, the students were not original creators of all of this. What the best word to describe them is, they were fantastic aggregators. They went out and found everything they possibly could on these topics. And after becoming knowledgeable about Waseca history and kind of getting trained on what a good historian is, they went out and said, okay, we've got this and this and this, and we found all kinds of, we're putting it all in one place. So if you scroll down, you'll see a wide range of different things about Don Eustace, the background, and even information about the posse, and then obviously the significance of his death. And there's some details related to the death, and if you continue to move down, and I don't know if this would pick up sound-wise or not, Michael, would it or not?
Probably.
Let's give it a try. If you just click on that quick audio for just about 10
Both of us, Don and I, said, well, good morning, Kenny. And he threw that door open. He got 12-gauge shotgun. He shot down. And didn't wait here. It went right down through at about 12 feet.
That's priceless. That's Merch Schwartz telling the story of how it happened that day. And that's a piece of how local history works. Oftentimes it's through stories, it's through local newspapers, it's through a wide range of ways. And obviously, Deputy Schwartz, to be Sheriff Schwartz, is no longer with us. And that audio is incredibly valuable as he tells that story. So wherever we possibly can, we try and incorporate those stories where people tell their stories, and you can continue to work your way up. And there's a wide range of other information, and if you clicked on that image right there, it will expand. And if you have a phone, and some of these images are not perfect, right? Well, but that's old newspapers. That's part of studying history. So if you scroll across, that's a series of images, and then you can just X out up in the top. And then just go a little bit further, a little bit of background, and to try and tell the story for someone who maybe is visiting Waseca, who doesn't have to know the background, to try and be as detailed as we can, but yet offer opportunities and keep working your way down to discover more. There's a podcast out there. You can listen to an 8-minute interview with Merch Schwartz. There's a great post from the family itself, and down at the bottom, which is one thing I really worked hard and feel really good about trying to include, is the opportunity for a visitor to share their memories. If you're old enough, you've been around long enough, and you remember when that happened, you click on that, and you don't have to, but you can click on that, and you can share your memories. It does not publish immediately live. It goes to my students, and the students will vet the posting and hopefully give us an opportunity. If this someone is really valuable to us and could be a resource to us, we may contact them and even use them in some other way. So each one of these tour stops kind of has that model to it. And so it's very exciting for us. And if you notice, I want to make a quick note of this. There are multiple times throughout these tour stops and the ones we're going to add in the coming months that we are accessing the Waseca County News, the Waseca County Pioneer, and the Mankato Free Press. And we are incredibly grateful that they have partnered with us to say, we value this, and we're willing to say, use our article without having to worry about the paywall. And that is incredibly convenient and smooth for us to be able to do that. And we do not, that is not lost on me, the significance of that. And we appreciate that so much that they're willing to do that because they value this project. So where are we now? Well, we're in the midst of, and you can actually close that particular tour stop and even go close the tour out even if you want, and go back to the tours in general at the bottom. We are in the process of, we have a whole nother set of tours that include the 67 tornado, the Shook murders, George Herder, which you do not know George Herder. That is an incredibly interesting study. We have a great one on E.F. Johnson and Edgar Johnson, the whole start, and we got 2 or 3 different audio clips from Edgar Johnson talking about the start of his company. There's a wide range of other things, a story of BMW, a story on Clear Lake, Loon Lake Island, a wide range of different other set of tour stops that we'll add in the coming months. We become more modern. We have a great one on Callie Jo Larson with a combination of a wide range of different interviews, one on baseball and Tick Larson Field. So there's so much that we're going to continue to add to it. So that's why this is considered phase 1. But the other phases will make this not just the history piece, but also the piece that involves other tours. That would make it even more valuable to the community from not only a economic standpoint, but a tourism standpoint, but just a connection. And what I also like about it is it goes outside the boundary of the city, because Hoffman Apiaries is in the country, Shook is out of the country, and Farm America, where we're trying to incorporate the area, not just within the boundaries. And I would love the opportunity to connect with someone within the other schools within the county to be able to find a way to somehow create their version of their local history too. So like I said, I could go for a long time, and I probably have already gone longer than I could have, but just a quick comment. This doesn't happen, as I told Deb this last week, it's just a really good idea over a cup of coffee unless the county says, we're on board with this, the city gets the grant and gets on board with it, Discover Waseca Tourism and the school all say, we value this project enough to be able to invest in it. And it's a 2-year process of which we do that. And the Waseca Area Foundation also said, yes, we value this. So all kinds of different entities that are a part of saying this is a project worth investing in. So that, and that is there, but then the students do all the work from my portion of it. These other tours are kind of being, we're hiring and working with Nick down at the media company, Small Town Media, because he has a lot of skill and a lot of equipment, and a lot of technology to be able to do those others. As much as I'd love to invest time in those, that's not my entity. I'm just kind of overseeing that, but the history one is fun. So, but we are so grateful for what this is so far, but really excited about where it's going to be. And I'm really excited to come back here a year from now and give you an update with even more really cool things. But the app should be up and running shortly, within the next month. And then the other tours will be added within the coming months, and then we'll also expand the history one too. So, but questions that you have?
I don't have any questions. This just floats my boat. What great local collaboration.
Yeah.
What great potential. Not only, obviously, the history part grounds us in who we are and where we've been, but all the rest of this helps tell the story of where we are now and where we want to go. And I'm really, really excited about this. This is so cool. And what a great opportunity to show off who we are to people who are just passing through.
And part of our challenge in conversations with kids is some of the stories, as every community has, are not easy to tell. If you know the story of David Kuntz, he's a part of our next set of tour stops. Cool story, but not a perfect story. The Callie Jo story is not a great story, but it's still worth and needed to be told. So that was fantastic to have conversations with the kids and our local history consultant from the cities that worked with us through the grant to be able to do all that. So delicate, but yet valuable. Even the point of the one on the courthouse is such a great tour stop. But the story of Ralph Garland, that's a part of that story. But we want to tell that in a respectful, delicate way, but yet it's a necessary story to be told. So, yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I think it's so vital that the kids are learning the history, because if the kids don't know the history, I mean, it just, everything falls apart, because that's what you base your life, what happens through your life. If you know the history of things, you're so much better off, and you make better decisions moving forward, knowing the history. So I think it's just vitally important.
Thanks. There is an element to this that this company that we work with, which is free, obviously, which is partly why I'm here to ask for your continued support. We're asking for $5,000 support from the county, but part of what they offer is what they call gamification, which to some people that means a lot. To me, it means we can turn this into an app where our sixth grade kids that are taking Minnesota history can use the app and go to places and earn badges. And you can also build quizzes into this to make it even more interactive. And it's a great company to work with and a really good decision to go that route and to be able to use them. And the fact that you can have beyond just the history tour, a wide range of other tours, because and this is probably on public record, but I'm unhappy that history isn't always everyone's first love, okay? But if they're there because they're looking for a restaurant, or they're looking for a shop, or to see the schools, they may say, what's this history thing too? So there's a blend to it, right? And as you described that, it's a combination, right, of where we've been and where we are today, and to promote our community. And like I said, I really like the idea of potentially expanding it beyond city limits, very much so.
So I just have to mention it. I was just at National Association of Counties and somebody brought up the doll in the window on Old Highway 14 in Janesville, you know, and I'm nowhere in this state, and the history of where we come from, it does help define us, and it helps make our little spot on the map matter to other people, even if it's just an oddity. Because they're curious then about the whole story behind it. So this is part of that too. And thank you for approaching this with some thoughtfulness. Every community has bad things that have happened, and it speaks to the resiliency of the community that bad things happen and we still take care of each other.
Very much so. And even if all of these students that are a part of this or exposed to this don't necessarily grow up and stay in Waseca or come back like I did to live in Waseca, they're more interested in their own local history in the community they go to because of their exposure to understanding their own community as they grow up. That's the hope anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great.
Just one last thing, I like the idea of getting out outside of Waseca, out into the county, because you got all your schoolhouses, your old schoolhouse, the big schoolhouse history. You got, you know, the papers from Wilton got to Waseca somehow. So there's that story.
That's in the story of Waseca County.
It is.
The tourist town, it is, yes. Yeah, but you're right, there is a great benefit to broadening beyond that. Yeah, so it's daunting and overwhelming at times, but very enjoyable. This was something originally that was supposed to be a part of my retirement, but I'm grateful it's getting done before then. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Moving on to the consent agenda, approval of the bill, for use permit site plan amendment, Nicholas and Ashley Rader, for Ruby Ranch and solid waste collection and transportation licenses.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Milbrath, second by Commissioner Krause. Any discussion? Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Action items is resolution 2024-25, authorization to conduct off-site gambling.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Tammy.
Waseca Hockey Association has requested authorization to conduct off-site gambling on August 24th at Lakeside Club. This type of a license requires board action in the form of a resolution. Send here today to request.
I get a motion on the floor.
I will make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Krause, second by Commissioner Milbrath. Discussion?
Is it just a fundraiser for hockey?
Hockey Association. They normally do bingo events on certain, that's what it is.
Okay.
They do it, it's not every year.
They do quite a bit of this, but this is one that happens to not be in city limits, so it comes to us.
There's no other discussion. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you much.
Thank you. Next, under action items, contract 812410, public works cold storage building.
Morning again. I guess I don't know if you just want me to give the short version of what we talked about at some length during the work session. But essentially, we solicited bids for a new cold storage building out at the Waseca shop. We solicited it in such a way that we have a base bid for work that is common to two different structure types. So that included site work and overhead doors and electrical and that kind of thing. And then alternate number one is for a pre-engineered metal building, concrete foundations and interior slab. And then alternate number two is for a timber post frame building, same concrete footings and foundation and interior slab. We opened bids on July 9th, had 6 bidders. EPX Construction Group is the apparent low bidder on the base bid. They're out of Mankato. Their base bid amount was $274,133. And then alternate number one for the pre-engineered metal building is $475,223. Alternate number two was $438,732. And then on your bid summaries, I have the combined totals. Which you select alternate number one or alternate number two, it is one or the other, not two buildings. So, again, we talked about this at some length during our work session just a little bit ago. Any additional questions?
Well, yeah, this has been kicked around at the subcommittee level since 21 or 20? 21.
Yep, October 2021, when we, again, just flip history, when we led a contract for the fuel station at the Waseca shop, and some mold mitigation, office renovation. That bid also included an alternate for a pre-engineered metal cold storage building. Bids came in higher than expected, and the county board awarded the project, but did not award that alternate for the cold storage building at that time.
Do you recall what the estimate was and what the bid came in at?
We were estimating somewhere like 350 to 400, and bids came in between 680 and the low 700s at that time. 680,000 to 710,000.
So,
at that time.
So here we are, 3 years later, and we're spending a little bit more than what the original bids came in at for 21.
And this time around, I'm sorry, we did just to provide the flexibility, and we were our architect, and just the market wasn't certainty on which building would be a better economic value or price for either timber span or why we elected to move forward with the two options as we see which one was going to be the better value. And that's why we set this up the way we did it. So we have a base bid, we award that to a low bidder, the APX group. And then as mentioned in the work session, we're kind of at the limits of, but we are at the limits of a clear span timber frame building at 80 feet, or it's a metal building. We are maximizing our footprint to avoid, to maximize our space, storage space, but to avoid having to sprinkle it. So it would be cold storage. Unheated space for equipment attachments and materials and supplies used by public works.
Make a motion and we go with APS, low bid, alternate one.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Milbrat, second by Commissioner Christopherson. Is there other discussion on this? Yes.
Oh, you want to go?
You go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to follow up with, it's taken a lot of, we kicked it down the road because it had doubled in our estimate. Because of COVID, we assumed was a lot of the culprit. Since then, we still went through an inflationary period, so we haven't been able to get it to come down. But we went through the same things with our shop over in Janesville. You know, that took several years and rebidding, and because it's a hard decision to build buildings. And I struggle with it on the necessity, weighing the necessity to the cost. And but we also got to look at the longevity of the benefit to the county. So it's taken me quite a while to warm up to this idea, but I think it can be a benefit long-term to our efficiency. And we're able to do it through past, through a joint account or a levy account, or it's been levied in the past, so it's there for the use of the county and to make things better and more efficient. So I'm willing to support it at this point.
I am particularly appreciative that we've got a couple choices here. And that those choices don't just involve money, although I was glad to see the two bids on the two different types of buildings were relatively close. But I absolutely agree that alternative one for longevity and long-term functionality, steel building just, it lasts longer, you have fewer issues with it, it will serve for a longer term. And we like to build things that will last here, and this is an example of doing that in a thoughtful way. So.
The idea that the money's coming from reserves and not affecting the levy.
That's correct. Bill mentioned that. But yes, it would come from a county levy reserve construction account.
So this has been in the plans for a while. We did the fuel island, we did all the landscaping, got all that set up, so when the water has someplace to go. So, and this is what, it's gonna sit right off to the east, right off of the salt shed, correct?
Yep. So there's a green space to the east of our staff parking area and paved roads in there. That's a green space that backs up to the Indes and our shared salt storage.
I do like the idea of, it's not gonna have any effect on our levy. And it is going off our reserves, which, may shoot us in the foot later on, but hopefully not. And it's not going to take away from any other projects that might show a good ROI to our constituents. So,
Hearing no other discussion, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Thanks, Jim, for your due diligence.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim.
We'll move into administration update.
All right, get reoriented here. All right, got a little bit of a list for you that I can work through, and you can certainly stop me and pause at any point in time. Sorry, I'm still making sure I got the right agendas pulled up there. There we go. We talked a little bit about cannabis legislation. You don't have to spend too much time on that. Just a quick reminder for the record, too. We have the joint meeting scheduled with all of these cities in the Waseca School District and any other school district that would like to attend. August 19th, 6:30 p.m. in the East Annex building. We'll meet tomorrow just in terms of kickoff with staff to talk through some of those high level requirements that we know or can infer from the document, the version 1 document that's been released from Office of Cannabis Management. Again, big giant caveats with that it's version 1 of likely many, and we still don't have the state regulations to refer to specifically as well too, which are going to be more sacrosanct than even that version 1 document that we have. So it's in some ways a wait and see, but also there's a little bit of impetus to get something in place quickly, because the state allowed for the social equity application portal to be applied for competitively the end of this month through the first couple of weeks of August. And it potentially creates some issues for counties that have to administrate the process if they don't have a document or an ordinance process in place locally to say, here's how it works. So we have no idea. Let's be honest. We have no idea exactly what that's going to look like or how the state will tweak the timing as they already have. So we are shooting at a ever moving target right now, but we will move forward with the best information we have to date, because that's all we can do. And as those inevitable changes continue to occur, we will be as flexible in the process as we can. There's a lot of corollaries and ties to this, be it Unified Development Code, etc. As of now, I would plan to facilitate a public hearing to review the first draft of what a Waseca County ordinance would look like, the first meeting in September. So just putting that in your minds or on your calendars. That will, so the format, the intent of that meeting on August 19th is, of course, to get those groups together. Here's kind of what the county is looking at. Here's what we're planning. Is it aligning with what the cities are trying to do? We're trying to not step on toes and make sure that we, as best we can, with however the board feels to move forward in this process, not create contradictory scenarios between ordinances applied or instituted by the county versus those instituted by the local municipalities as well. So I talked a little more at length in our last time we chatted about the complications and myriad licensures that there are and how those can all impact and how they do not correlate to a number of retail spaces, etc. So there's a lot of things that we could work through and will work through there. But more to come on that, but please keep that August 19th meeting on your calendars, 6:30 in the East Annex. The following day, you have the Commissioner Picnic, August 20th. So just a reminder on that one. So you're tasked with serving some food after the board meeting. That one you won't have to delve through to figure out where you're going for lunch on that day. It'll be well entrenched for you. But the department heads are aware and will contribute some of those foods. Media friends, you're more than welcome to attend if you want to. But, just across the street, the lawn of the courthouse, serving some food for staff. A lot of budget updates, daily budget conversations. This is the fifth year now I've been in this process, and it's been the most challenging year thus far, and will continue to prove to be the most challenging. Just a lot of different moving parts and things happening, and making sure that we're cost controlling as much as we can. But that isn't to paint a negative picture or doom and gloom situation. It'll be fine. There's just a lot of things to iron out and and get in the right and appropriate place so we're not creating hardships for future years as well too. So just being smart about it. Yes, sir.
Are most of our challenges having to do with we're going through an inflationary period? Or do you, we'll talk about this, I know at length later on, but whether we use reserves to buy down levy this year because of the inflationary period. You can't continue to do that every year, but if there's a lot of one-time things that we can help buy down, that's I guess what I'm driving at is in order for us to continue to stay low, we got to still continue to make efficiency because these ongoing expenses are going up.
Yeah. So there's two major things. Inflation is a big piece of it. Essentially, you have about 6.5% increases in levies over a 5-year period, competing with about a 23% plus increase in inflation. So in theory, across the board, we're doing the same amount of work still. Our service does not decline. In fact, it's enhanced in all of our areas, but we've had to figure out ways to make some of that more efficient, certainly, because that gap of 15 to 18% has to be made up somewhere or found somewhere. So the board's done a good job at figuring out that puzzle over the last several years. And the second piece is figuring out, is just right sizing. A few years ago, all had the collective thought that our levy is a little disproportionate to the county. So what's the right number? And we're getting closer to figuring out what's the right number. And within the next 2 years, I think we'll about be there. So when that happens, then you have to start having more of the conversation of meeting the inflationary demands year after year as they occur. But we haven't gotten there yet. So why it's more challenging is because every year we get a little bit closer to the target. There's a little less wiggle room. So it's just being mindful of, let's meet the narrative for this year, but not create an insurmountable obstacle for the following and following and following. So we're in a very good position. I don't have a negative outlook at all. It's just being mindful and realistic that decisions made this year are decisions that impact future decisions too.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question.
Michael, how's our union negotiations? One of those?
We've had 2 meetings already, early, but helpful, at least to go over the high priority list. There's still some flux with a couple of the bargaining units for which group will be representing them. Those votes haven't happened yet, but they, I'm sure, will. And then, so we don't know for a certainty yet which actual union will be working with 2 of our groups. We do for a certainty with the other 2 at 4 total. So we've met with 2 of the 4 in total. Have a pretty good idea of what major implications will be there. So those are already built into the narrative for 2025. Yeah, and when I mentioned we kind of plan for the quote unquote worst case scenario as it pertains to the budget impact, we've done that. There's the most major unknown right now is health insurance. It's a tumultuous world, even in the best case scenarios, and we'll be going out to market for that because our 3-year agreement is up for that as well too. So just to make sure we're as close as we can be on that, but good so far. We had a good childcare meeting last week. I wanted to make sure I mentioned that to you, so it's not a surprise as things come back to this governing body. Commissioner Malter was able to participate in that, which I'm thankful for, as well as the city of Waseca and the school district, Waseca Public Schools. Eric Hudspeth, superintendent, was part of that and continues to be a strong partner and advocate for future solutions. One thing, I won't go too much into details there yet because a lot of it is still hypothetical scenario, but something that we did come across as possible recycling of this building and this space in the future. And that's the one I particularly wanted to mention to you, as we've often talked in any future iterations or building plans and consolidation of county infrastructure and footprint, it would be abandoning this space, and it still could be, but looking at what potential usage of this space could be as well for a child care center and facility. That was an interesting one that we hadn't really talked through until that meeting, and how that could look and the pros and cons, if you will, of that. A lot there, and Tina sent out some good notes just yesterday, I think, yesterday afternoon about that too. So good conversations moving forward. On the Tina front, she will officially be starting with the county on Monday, July 22nd. So sneaking ahead into some HR announcements maybe. That job was posted. We only ended up having one applicant for it, and that was Tina, obviously. So been working with the city on that transition plan. A byproduct of that is severing the existing joint powers agreement for economic development. Carl and I, the city manager, worked that out to be on a more consultant basis, going the other direction moving forward. So as of Thursday, end of the day Thursday, 4:30, we'll officially end that. And as I said, getting everything else set in place. The city has a new individual that would have replaced Bill Green, who retired a few months ago. John Froaks, and he started at the beginning of July. So they're kind of transitioning several things at the same time. So continuing to work through that. City's been great in working with me and vice versa, and setting all those pieces in the best places we can. We'll have an upcoming work session on what a community corrections model would look like with Mr. Shiro. And part of my ask of him going into the 2025 budget process was creating a mock 2025 budget if we were in CCA model. So it's helpful just to compare apples to apples as best we can. Say, if we were under this prescriptive model, this is what it would look like, and here's the real cost, because that's always better to know. What does it cost? It's an important question. And then working through, he's put together a really nice document to step through. Here's kind of the strategic plan of sorts for community corrections, or that CCA model, opposed to the CPO model that we're on currently. So our hope and target is to be able to implement that by 2026. The state legislation has softened for, there used to be a system where it was, I can't remember if it's even or odd, but you could only make a switch on an odd year, and you had to advertise that forthcoming switch by this date and this date, but those have gone away. So it's a little bit more fluid. So he's already facilitated several conversations with the state for what that could look like, the Department of Corrections side of things. And we've put together, really John has put together a lot of good information on what that looks like. So we wanted to bring that to the board early, within the next month and a half or so, as part of the overall budget conversation. So when John gives his presentation, we'll just couple that with here's what else this could look like next year when we're having this conversation as well. What else? Touch base with Steve Kraus earlier. That was the end of last week. This is only Tuesday. Last Friday. And he continues to have a lot of good conversations. He's been attending all of the regional conversations for BEAD, the broadband equity dollars that'll be available. Kind of figuring out the challenges and opportunities that will be presented with those fundings. In total, it seems like a lot of dollars, and it is, over $650 million for our state, but there's some concerns on how that will be both equitably appropriated, but also just the opportunities that counties will have based upon the data that is being subscribed to from the FCC and the state. So we're in that challenge period, or we'll be entering that challenge period to point at the maps and say, no, this data isn't accurate. It's a difficult process to overcome, as really the burden of proof is on the individual owner. It's not really on the county. It's on the individual owner to be able to make the case and say, no, this map isn't accurate. I should be eligible. And it's just very much uphill for being able to realistically challenge that process from an individual standpoint. So we're working with one company in particular going forward to best utilize those dollars in our area. So Steve is setting up a couple of future meetings, had a kickoff meeting with them, and we'll pull in some more of us in a future meeting. Something we were hoping to acquire with conversations between our state's Office of Broadband Development, who does a very good job, and the NTIA was trying to adopt the Minnesota model for how those funds were allocated, what was prioritized in funding. That did not happen. And what that ultimately means is, under that Minnesota model, we would have been prioritizing fiber to the premise opposed to wireless, and the feds kind of came back and just said, we don't care what it is, we just want to be able to say people are covered. So that makes us shift a little bit, because we're in all reality, we're not going to qualify for fiber to the premise with BEAD funding. That's just likely the reality of it. So how do we shift and work with some ISPs that are willing to work with us for a more fixed wireless, at least redundancy solution? So that's where we're at on that right now. We have set a placeholder meeting, Commissioner Malter, by the way, for next week as well. I'll communicate with you.
So I got a text from Steve talking about that it shows up as my home being serviced for 100.
Yeah.
120.
Right.
With a particular vendor,
So
yes.
it's advantageous for me to challenge that, correct? To get it correct on the map.
It's advantageous for you to follow up and utilize Steve to follow up, to work with the vendor to basically prove that concept and say, okay, you advertise that you will cover this area with this service, show us. And they have certain timelines that they have to fulfill to say, I will be out to this person's house within a 10-day period to be able to tell you, yes, I can give you service. No, I can't give you service, even though we said we could. Or no, we can't, but we possibly can if we do this, which would be utilizing some micro pop infrastructure to create kind of an access point specific to your property to get around topographical challenges, trees, valleys, things like that. Steve is, yes, more than willing to work with any and all that will work with him to. He's looking in those specific project areas too, focusing on a couple of ISPs in particular, because if we're going to challenge, it's more so challenging individual ISPs and their data. It's not just like challenging all ISPs. So you have to prove the concept per ISP. Yeah. Hopefully that was helpful information from Mr. Hansen this morning. That in terms of the ongoing request, I do have a placeholder in appropriations. So in terms of what that looks like from your perspective, you heard him mention that at a future date, that ongoing supporter request, there'll be a placeholder there. You'll see it in the budget. So just want to make mention of that. There's already some natural follow-up to that that can be discussed and explored later. But I thought it was a cool project and was looking forward to see that for a while. So it was a good demonstration. Working with Waldorf currently, and Commissioner Christopherson's been involved in this conversation too, which I appreciate, just looking at what a county abatement agreement could look like that models similar to what we've done with housing abatements with a couple of our municipalities in the past, but kind of shifting away from residential and looking at businesses and what could that look like. So we have a draft of that agreement that we're working from. I have a meeting with Economic Development Authority tomorrow morning, a work session that is focusing on the newly discovered model that we are operating under and some of what that implies, the allowances from a statutory standpoint, what can this governing body do, what discretionary authority do they have, and how that all ties to the overall schema of economic development. So that'll be something that Tina is very much driving the process of going forward in the future as well. But getting that group together at least to talk through. Here are the documents that were approved in 2012 and what they mean and what they tell you can do and should do and how we should think about the world through the lens of economic development. And then we have the press release, and you maybe saw from South Country Health Alliance about their community impact grant funding. Something we knew was forthcoming, but a little bit of action required on the county side to get some of those dollars brought back to us, and then having to think about what does that mean in 2025 in terms of budget? Is there an impact? And if there's an impact, it would have to synergize with some of the existing programs that we have. Are there better suited one-time opportunities that those dollars would be best suited for? So just placeholder for that thought as well too. But we'll make sure that the funds get here first and then talk through how they could be used.
That needs to be in September, sometime, that proposal.
Yeah, I believe we have a couple of months. I don't have the date right in front of me. I apologize for that, but we do have a little time.
I think it is September sometime, because it's not awarded until January 1.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Might even be October.
Anything else for me you're looking at that I can supplement?
DevCon grant.
Yeah. Mid-August, we will hear about round 10. Yeah, good question. Yeah, mid-August. Maybe even a little sooner, but that's what they're telling us thus far. Yeah, hope for some good news.
Any hint of good news yet? Nothing.
There hasn't been much hints about anything yet, no.
We had visitors, it's good to have
We
folks
did.
from the Office of Broadband here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had them back this spring. Yeah.
Yeah, and we had a lot of good feedback from OBD on that, so thanks for your efforts there. That was more so on the digital equity piece of it, but it all ties together.
Good. Anything else from Michael? Thank you for the update.
Yeah, thank you.
We will move on to the Minnesota Department of Transportation District 7 Capital Highway Investment.
Good morning, and thank you for having us here today. My name is Greg Ose. I'm the district engineer. And with me today is Angie Piltaver. She's our senior planner, and Doris Sigenstein, our public affairs coordinator. And we have a handout for you here today. And we have a PowerPoint that we'll be following. So on the left-hand side of the folder that you have today,
Thank
is the
you.
PowerPoint that we'll be following. And on the right-hand side is the mapping, and so that you can get a better look at the individual projects we have now and off into the future. So again, thank you for having us here today. Next slide is what I like to cover. Very similar to our previous presentations, obviously, but where are we at for revenue coming at us from the state as a whole and also into the district? We'd like to talk about our project delivery cycle so that when we're here talking about those projects that are out in that that 6 to 10 year time period that, we can see those coming in. It helps us with conversations with Jim, where you're at, where we're at, and start to take a look at those as they come into that time frame. Typically, the projects coming in at that time frame are either showing a pavement issue, a bridge issue, or also we're working towards upgrading ADA through our communities. Our goal is 2037. And as you know well, going through those urban settings, there's a lot of, it's costly for a very short road segment, but it's important. So we're trying to match and bring all those projects together as we go forward. So we'll talk about our planned projects that are in the STIP for the first 4 years of that program, and then just continue. Just want to thank Jim and the work that we've done together. It keeps us informed of things that impact the highway. We hope we do the same for Jim, and so that we keep that conversation going and been able to do that. So with that, the next slide is kind of the big picture for the next 20 years. We just went through a reanalysis of the MinShip, and it kind of takes a look at the investments that are either expected of us or ones that we need to make for performance of our system. And you can see that here, that's $31.5 billion over the next 20 years. What's not reflected in this yet is the dollars that were made available by the 23 legislature. We're anticipating that over that same 20-year period, that will reflect about $5 billion. It's a slow start for those dollars coming in, so you'll see changes coming up here probably in 24, 25, 26. It'll be easier to see that influx of dollars and what that would look like across the state. So that's coming. And so the big areas, obviously, in the green are the pavements, the bridges, and the roadside infrastructure. The area in yellow represents the cost of doing business for us for program and planning management. And then you can see the other areas that are reflective of the IIJA, or the federal bill that we're currently working under, in climate resiliency, advancing technology, which is that IT component alongside roadside infrastructure. We continue to advance our overall system management moving forward, mobility, freight, and pedestrian movements. Trying to do our best to manage all of those improvements over time. Just quickly, District 7, it's 13 county area. We cover 2,300 miles, 475 bridges, 9,700 culverts, which I think I looked at, not I, but we looked at most of them during this last flooding event. Those are the ones that you can see the damages around bridge and other roadside infrastructure, but those are the ones that as you know well, that can also scour and become problematic for you. And we serve just under 300,000 in terms of our population. Next slide, please. The pavement is broken up. Our system is broken up into 3 main categories: the interstate system, which is in purple, the national highway system, which is our higher volume roads, and then also the non-NHS, which is our lower volume roads. And you can see on there what we're trying to shoot for in terms of our targets. And this comes to play when we start showing you how the system is performing. We do try to stay at a good target for the interstate system. Is over 70, the NHS is over 65, and the non-NHS is over 60. The more difficult part of this is managing the poorer side of this. We want to stay below 2 on the interstate and below 4 on the national highway system, and below 10 on the non-highway national highway system. That's typically the roads that are the ones that are serving your region. Those are the ones like coming down Highway 13. We were at Waseca this morning, Waseca County, coming down Highway 13. You know, where you're feeling the age of that road, the roughness of that road, and how does that fit into the rest of the system in terms of investments off into the future. With that being said, This is what our road system looks like right now today. Based on we have that van that goes out and takes a look at and measures the quality of the road in terms of its road surface and how smooth it rides. So you can see that right now, our road system is looking really good in terms of green is good, fair is yellow, and red is poor. And that has been very, very favorable to us over the last 10-year cycle to get us to this section here. In this last year, the distribution of funds has changed. We went from a performance-based funding distribution at the state level to a size and a usage with the average daily traffic that travels over the roads, the heavy commercial that travels over the roads. So we're going to see a bit of a reduction in terms of the dollars that are available to us over the years ahead, and we'll talk about the impact of that. Here's the next slide is a snapshot of where we're at for our bridges right now. Again, the national highway system, we try to keep that above 55% good, and then the less than 5% poor. And again, poor just means that it requires additional maintenance for us to keep them in a serviceable condition. It doesn't mean that they're hazardous. It's always hard to clean up the coast, but that's kind of our system of managing the bridges going forward. As you can see along I-90, those bridges were all built in a very relatively short period of time. And they are going to be a major part of our management needs going forward here in the years to come, probably 10 to 20 years from now. We're all reaching that point where probably significant deck, either rehabilitation or replacement will be required. So we'll continue to watch that. Next slide, please. So again, like we mentioned before, what we want to show you here today is what's coming into our system in that 5 to 10 year period, which we call the chip. And that's where we're taking a look at what's coming in. It's coming into us, like I said before, either road condition, bridge, or our commitment to ADA upgrading. And then, we talk about the STIP years, funds have been assigned, here's the project, here's the scope, here's what we're moving forward with, and then delivering on those projects moving forward. So with that, I'm going to have Angie here help you to better understand what's under construction this year. And then also we'll talk a little bit about the impact of flooding. We'll kind of team that one. And so I'll let Angie take over.
Thanks, Greg. So good morning, everyone. Thanks for having us. Again, my name is Angie Piltaver, and I'm the principal planner for District 7. So what you have on the right side of your folder, you have a couple of 11 by 17 enlarged maps. Just make it a little easier for everybody to look at these. You have the construction map, and then you have 2 other maps behind that. We'll talk about those in a moment. But on the construction map, you'll see that we're working on several different projects, or we'll be starting work, I should say, on several different projects. Some of the more significant ones are the I-90 unbonded overlay that's in year 2 down in Faribault County. And then also we have the Minnesota 93 in Henderson, 169 in Henderson, Gray Graves. It's the first year of that project. And unfortunately with flooding, a little bit of a time frame for that. So we have some things going on with that. And that actually, all of the projects that you see on this construction map represent about $140 million in projects in our program that we're delivering this year. So it's a good amount of money that we're investing into the system this year alone. There are, of course, other projects listed there, and if anybody has any questions about any of those, we're happy to answer questions at the end of the presentation. If you want to go to the next slide, please. So as we've been talking about in all of our meetings, we obviously had this very significant rainfall that brought us flooding. I think 12 of our 13 counties experienced flooding to the highways. Here in Waseca County, there was some flooding that occurred on US 14 south of Janesville. So there was a couple sections there that had some water over the road. And I'm not sure if we had anything
So-
beyond that.
We're aware, Jim, of that. You're looking at the downstream feature on this, and he, very graciously made us aware of that, which we would like to understand the hydraulics of this region and area here. Like to not be having Highway 14 flood.
Yeah.
Not a good deal. Again, we'll work with Jim and see see where this is at, and we'll have to take a look at this off into the future. With the two efforts here, whether or not we have to do something to the road surface itself, or whether a majority of it will be corrected with improvements to the downstream feature.
And go to the next slide, please. So here, this is sort of our, these are our District 7 funding targets for our 10-year program, our plan. So we have the 2024 through 2023 targets. On the left side of your slide, what you're looking at is the targets and our funds for our program, more or less our work program, if you will. The blue bars in this graph represent the money that the district receives for its programming purposes. And then the yellow bars stacked on top of that are external funds that we would get for, these are external funds that would come in for things like way stations, rest areas, and any additional monies that perhaps the legislature provides in the way of bonding money. So you'll see that there are some years that do have bonding funds, or rather these external funds. And then on the right side of the chart, these are the back 6 years. These are our plan years. Again, blue and yellow, same meaning. You can kind of see how the revenues are sort of gradually increasing. You kind of, when you're looking at the left-hand side of the chart, you kind of see that weird sort of up and down and then peaks and valleys, basically. And that kind of goes back to that change that Greg was saying in the way that funds are distributed. Instead of having the peaks and the valleys, it's now meant to kind of be more on a trajectory that looks more like the right-hand side of the chart. A couple things notable or to know about this is that we're programming on the left side, that's about $300 million worth of projects between 25 and 28. And then between 29 and 34, we're planning, our targets are about $620 million for the chip years, or the back 6 years of the chip, I should say. So typically, one thing also is that typically the years on this side of the chart are a bit more optimistic than when they finally do come into the STIP. But with the extra $5 billion that the legislature is providing through these additional gas taxes being indexed to construction inflation, perhaps that will make some difference in kind of what that looks like when it comes in. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, you have a couple other maps in your packet. So the second map is actually going to be the full look at District 7 with its 4-year program or its STIP. And so on the screen here, you have a zoomed in view that's focusing on Waseca County and some of the nearby counties. So in Waseca County, you can see that we have a project on Minnesota 30 in New Richland. And that will be in 2026. And that is actually it's a sidewalk project. They're going to be repairing and replacing sidewalks in New Richland. We have ADA requirements that we have to meet. We need to be substantially compliant with ADA by 2037. And so that's actually a big focus of what the project is being put out there for as a standalone. And the other thing is that with the update to MNSHIP, which is our sort of guidance for our 20-year plan, there was more focus on the multimodal aspect of when we program for transportation spending. And so we need to be incorporating more of these sort of sidewalk projects and really looking at things like how do we get pedestrians around safely, how do we get bikes. And the mission of the agency has included that. It's just MNSHIP wanted to divvy up the dollars and provide more funding in these areas. And so it's a good marrying of these things to have this project out there at that time. Next slide, please. So this is our map that covers the back 6 years of our 10-year plan. So this is our draft chip. When you're looking at this, what you're seeing are 3 different levels or tiers of projects. So we have the primary tier, which is, these are all 2-year blocks essentially. So the primary tier is for 2029 through 2030 projects essentially. The secondary tier, which is in green, that's for 2031 through 2032 projects. And then the tertiary tier is for 2033 through 34 projects. So we've grouped them into 2-year tiers, and a lot of this is because the chip changes a lot. It's kind of the one thing that when we walk out of here, that's what you can take away from talking about the chip is the chip changes. So we kind of grouped them in these 2-year time periods, and then you have several different projects listed on here. And if you want to go to the next slide, we can talk about what we've got in Waseca County. So of course, the big one is in Waseca County is the project on Highway 13 from Waseca all the way up to Waterville. That project is identified in the tertiary tier, so that'll be sometime between 33 and 34. There are some projects obviously outside of the county. You can see these are on 14, also in the tertiary tier. Quite a few, between Highway 60 back towards Mankato, and we have the bridges that we have to address also on 14. And then north, I think Greg mentioned, we came down on 13 today from LaSoure County, and there's a project up in LaSoure County also on Highway 13 that we'll be working on in CHIP there as well. So I think we can go to the next slide. So if we complete all the projects that are in the 10-year plan, as we're showing it here today, the ride quality map that Greg referenced, this is the 2034 projected conditions on the roads. So you'll see that on this map, there's a good amount of green, there's still a good amount of yellow, and we do have more red on this map now than probably we would care to see. But this will be the road conditions at the time that these projects, once we get all the way out to 2034 with these projects. So basically, what you're seeing here is, yep, we're doing our best with our funds to maintain the road system, but overall, even with some of the increases in funding provided by the legislature, it's still there's still a lot of demand based on the road quality itself and the pavement condition. There's still a lot of demand. And more demand for repairs and resurfacing and reconstructs than there is dollars to take care of all of them and keep that map looking more like the current 2024 map. So go on to the next slide. So basically, it's this same sort of methodology. These are looking at our bridges. Greg mentioned essentially a bridge bubble on I-90. All those bridges are all coming due for work at about the same time. So lots of yellow still there, and then we have some that have progressed to the poor condition. So that's even with the work that we're projecting out there. Those are the conditions that you'll see with those. I think Greg already explained that poor doesn't mean unsafe. It just means a lot more investment that we need in order to bring them back up into the good category. Next slide. So this is sort of a snapshot from our website. You can go to the website address at the top of the slide. If you would like to take a look at any of the projects, these are all linked. And then when you're out there, you can click on any one of them and it'll give you the details of sort of where we are at the moment with where we are in these projects. And you'll find information about the project. You might find if they're far enough along that we've identified detour routes that would be on there. And importantly, you have the project contact information. So if you have specific questions, you can always click on their name or give them a call and talk to the project manager about any questions or concerns you have. So finally, next slide, that brings us to the point where we ask you all, kind of what's going on in Waseca County? Where are things that, that you're seeing problems, and the county engineers are doing a great job of communicating with us. But we also like to hear, obviously, from the commissioners, since you represent the public and you're probably hearing things that maybe we're not hearing. So if there are concerns or issues that you'd like to bring forward, we can hear those so that we have that as something that that we take back with us in our examination when we're doing our planning going forward.
Well, I'll start out with Highway 14, and I don't think Jim's gonna be able to help you out with that water come over. I think you're gonna have to work with the DNR and try to control some of that water coming out of Lake Region.
Okay.
I think that's where the problem, there's so much that runs into that lake, and it's already, going into the dam, but it's even with the walkway of the dam, filling up the spillway there, and it's already going over the next dam. I think that's where you're gonna have to work with them to figure out some solution to help slow that water coming down that ditch.
Yeah, I think, once you start looking at any feature, you have to look upstream and downstream, and then we're, have that, so you're 100% right. Trying to look at where we are.
I would just, if I may, on the same topic, and I was really glad to hear you bring it up, because I live in Janesville, and it's my district, and I got to watch all those cars come by my house, and it was one thing when Old 14 went straight through town, and everybody that was on 14 went straight through, but that Main Street intersection is not meant for those big trucks, and I was very concerned about public safety. And as I know everyone was, and I think, we did the best we could, but it gets pretty untenable to have those big trucks come through there and make turns at an intersection that is not built to accommodate those kinds of turns. I was glad that it was summertime and there weren't kids crossing from, school and that kind of stuff, because that would have been even more dangerous.
When we had the county sheriff and deputies and the city had police officers standing out there in traffic.
Yeah.
Helping that form. I mean, we were there 5-6 hours and they were just helping out.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, we, 12 of the 13 counties were impacted.
Yeah.
We moved the trunk highway traffic off of the trunk highway, 28 different locations.
Wow.
And so, again, our thanks to our enforcement partners throughout the district and patrol that were instrumental in helping getting those off. One night, we moved traffic off the trunk highway, and an hour later, that road that we had put traffic on went under. So it was a historic event.
Yeah, it was, indeed.
But, this isn't the first time water's come over 14.
No.
So it is something that we need to, and have this great opportunity with the work you're doing, looking at the downstream features, is to take a look at that watershed and how it's actually working. So.
I was heartened and not at all surprised to hear that our staff is working strongly with you and partnering, and I would expect that to continue and expect that from Waseca County. We want to solve that problem if it can be solved, and we want to work with you to do that, and understanding that none of those solutions are easy ones.
Well, I got a couple of, it doesn't have to do with what's happening in the county, but on your bridge map, in Martin County, you've got a bridge out in the middle of nowhere. It's not on a road. Or is that just a glitch in your?
My guess is that it's a glitch, and that the geo reference for that bridge isn't aligning with.
See that in southern Martin County, right dead center there, right there.
Right there.
Yep.
It's out in the middle of nowhere.
Well, at least it's in fair condition.
Thank goodness.
I hope we don't own a bridge out there.
Yeah.
Well, you never know.
You never know.
You never know.
Right. And then my other question is there a rhyme or reason to how they set up these districts? Why you would have Rock and Noble out there?
Well, that has been a source of many conversations. That is probably, this comes back from the, when the Department of Transportation was organized. And so it was probably the characteristics of the road system at that time as to why it was placed that way. It doesn't, it is interesting, right? And that this isn't the only district that's kind of asked that question. What do you think of District 1, which is geographically huge, right? So things have changed so much over time. I don't anticipate the boundaries changing because that's challenging.
So do you work with the district above, what is that, 6th?
That's 8th over there, yeah.
You know, for that road all the way to Iowa, you know, you would think you would work together to do that stretch of road. You know, to me, it'd be more efficient for that district to have it all the way down to Iowa.
Right, but we do, but then you look at Highway 62, or 60 also, you know, so that came over into Nobles. So then you just pull rock off and let that be with 8. So there's probably some of those reasonings that went on at those times, honestly, I don't know why. I meet with my fellow district engineers, and I just met with the state as a whole, and we look at all of our projects and where we're at, and what's happening in each district, and trying to take a look at where we're at on those individual roads. Like 75 coming out of Laverne, we'll have a future project on that, but also from Trotsky North into District 8, they also have a project, because that road is similar in condition. Correct.
And planning has occurred, yeah, I think management group too, or involves all of the planning managers essentially, and they do show everything, and we're talking to each other, we're showing each other our STIP and our CHIP, and we're having those conversations at the planning level too, so.
Yeah, maybe. So in 2012, the 14 4-lanes opened. Why would there be bridges assessed in fair condition on a road that's 12 years old?
So it could be at any number of things, and it might be just going into fair, so that means maybe we gotta seal some of the cracks on the deck. They're pretty stringent, they want their bridges in good condition, so when those things start to emerge, maybe it's a joint that's not acting as we'd like to have, so we gotta go in there and do some joint work. The big expansion joints that are on those bridges, so I wouldn't, even when it goes into fair, it just needs the good and fair is that it just needs to have some more maintenance.
Some work done on it. And that's what I was wondering, the 3 green at 13 and then to your right toward Seal appear to be the road overpass. And everything after that appears to be, say, crossing a waterway or a river, public water. Is that more susceptible to not being?
So what that might be is that maybe some riprap under these high water conditions, if it's over a river, that might have got displaced, and we want to get back in there and get that.
That makes more sense.
That do some more of that maintenance work.
Right. Okay. Other questions?
Highway 13 and 7th Avenue here in the city. There's a sensor on there, and I know they've looked at it before. It waits 90 seconds before it kicks off and changes for the east-west bound traffic. So at night after 7 p.m., it trips perfectly, but during the daytime, it doesn't do it. And you're sitting there with cars that are nothing going on Highway 13, and you're just sitting there for your 90 seconds before it'll even change.
13 and 7?
7th, yeah.
7.
No.
That's what I say,
North.
north, 7th north.
So no roundabout, just looking for it.
It just, and sometimes there's not enough time. If you have 2 cars that are going west and you want to go turn north, and there's just not enough time to change it fast.
Okay.
Ironically enough, it was just brought up at the city council meeting a couple Tuesdays ago about having to wait at that light also.
Okay. We'll check up on how that's operating.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
One last one. The ethanol plant, has the state thought about putting an acceleration lane in for the westbound traffic?
You know, I haven't heard any issues lately, at the ethanol plant, so we'll take a look, see, where we're at. Try to go back and look at the data to see what things are happening and then do site observations where we're at. What's always been interesting about the ethanol plant is that characteristics around them can change over time.
Correct.
And I think, it's always good to go back and take a look at that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for what you do.
All right,
I'm sure all
thank
the
you.
phone calls are, hey, good job.
I tease, everyone hates me equally, I think I'm doing okay.
Kind of like us too.
Yeah, we can relate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Michael, did you have any more to add to the administration?
I don't think so.
And if we, human resources?
I don't have a specific handout, no. I can try to locate it, but
Any new hires, new resignations?
what'd you say?
I can pull it up. If you give me a second.
Oh, Beth might know where one is. She's on it. Thanks. Tina's the only one on there that is listed as a new hire. No specific resignations, so no, not much else to talk about. I'm still going down. Oh, Beth thought it was important that I point out it's her 6-year anniversary as listed amongst about 13 other staff, but she only pointed to herself, so.
Well, you're the one that directly organizes our chaos, so we appreciate it.
Hiding.
Mhm.
All right, commissioner reports. Commissioner Malter, would you like to begin today?
I can.
Right.
Let's see, we last met on the 2nd. We had a budget work session, board meeting, and I had a library board budgeting meeting that evening. And then on Wednesday, July 3rd, I stopped in briefly at the Power of Produce meeting, and they're getting ready to launch this summer's Power of Produce, and lots of excitement around that, so that's awesome. Let's see, then 4th of July was in there. 8th of July, Monday, we had a policy committee meeting for Min Prairie. We continue to go through all their review and update all the policies there. I had a shack retreat planning meeting. There's going to be a shack retreat in October. We can announce that it's going to be in St. Cloud. And we've got a gentleman who is the founder and CEO, president of the De Beaumont Foundation. They specialize in public health, and he's David Castrucci. I just got to see him at NACO. He's going to be here in Minnesota. And boy, what an interesting guy, and so much to learn about public health. That's going to be a great, great thing. I couldn't make it to the fair open house because I had a library board meeting. I'm assuming that you all represented for us. Tuesday the 9th, let's see. We had a child care stakeholder meeting that I thought there's actually some things happening, kind of swirling a little bit. It's good it was a good meeting. It feels like we might be getting a little traction here, which encourages me because we need so many spots. Met with Eric Miller, our former Land and Water Resources coordinator for One Watershed, One Family Sewer. Had a chance to talk about the transition there. It seems that he did a good job of getting us ready to move on, and we wish him well at the DNR. Wednesday the 10th, I was at the fair in the evening. Also had a Leadership Academy cohort coffee, kind of get together. Thursday morning, early, I was on a flight down to Tampa to go to National Association of Counties. And came back from there late last night. I was happy to serve this last year as the vice chair of the Health Steering Committee and got a chance to do some speaking at some meetings and support our Minnesota Ramsey County Commissioner, Mary Jo McGuire. She finished out her term as NACO president. And I flew back last night so I could be here today.
They put the new president in place?
Yes, James Gore took office. George Dunlap he's from Georgia. Mecklenburg, no, North Carolina. Mecklenburg, North Carolina was voted in on the first ballot as the second VP, and I believe we have a new central district rep. Number of Minnesota commissioners appointed to lead committees, and so even though our Minnesota commissioner is now immediate past president, we still had a lot of great representation on the Minnesota side. And of course, they knew Minnesota was in the house, because they always do.
Score from California?
Gore is from California, yes. Yep.
Thank you for representing us.
I was glad to.
Commissioner Crosby.
June 18th, yeah, work session in the morning, right, June 18th?
July 2nd.
Back to part. Yeah. Board work session in the morning. Then on, Saturday the 6th or the 7th was Farm City Days out in Richland. Then the 8th was Monday, was the Fair Night Appreciation. The 9th was Wilton Township. And then the week of the fair. And for the last couple of weeks, Travis Town has been very actively working in Wilton Township and moving south. But running up and down the road, and they're putting the fiber in underneath the driveway, and then also running it lengthwise down the roads and stuff. So there's lots of flags.
There you go.
Everything else to mow around out there. So
And monumentation.
and monumentation, yeah. So Jones Huggins Smith got that bid, and as I understand, they're gonna go around, not do any digging this year.
Trying to find,
But finding,
find what they can without.
find what they can without disrupting anything, and the ones they can't find out do next spring, next summer. So, which I think is a good deal, because I think, looking up and quite a few.
Is the mosquitoes part of the problem? They don't wanna go out there.
Oh, they are bad, aren't they? Mosquitoes, flies, yes, they are terrible, and they're big. So, but otherwise, I met the sheriff, this morning at 7, so. Thank you.
Thank you. My turn?
July 6th, was Farm and City Days. I was in the parade.
Yeah,
So
both.
know if I threw any of you guys candy or not, but I was there. Had the whole family walk along with me and throw candy, so.
Good for you.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. It was nice day. It wasn't too hot, so good. They had a really big turnout for their car show Saturday morning. Just about 150 classic vehicles. July 8th was the fair appreciation, and then after that, Jim and I went out to Freedom Township and gave them a proposal if they would be interested, just as a talking point or a starting point, trading 270th Street with County 72. 270th is that cut across from 83 to 3, and a lot of traffic. It's one of the highest car counts in the county, 300 and some a day. We didn't get a real warm reception. There you go. That's the word I'm looking for. Because we would be trading a mile for 2.5 miles. You know, they'd be taking on 2.5 miles, but a car count of 40 a day versus 300, you know, so we just put it out there because that to us made the most sense if we were to take that road over and it someday be hard surface because of the traffic count. We didn't make any promises on surfacing because that could be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. But I told them that it would be one of the next roads to be hard surfaced within the county because of the count, you know. But we also have some high traffic ones up here by that ethanol plant. So, anyway, I said you don't have to. I mean, we're not here for a yes/no answer. We just something to think about and kick around. So that was good. The 10th, we had the Highway Public Works Subcommittee. The 11th was South Country Health Alliance. They having a good year. It's leveling off. It won't be anything like last year, but they are looking at it right now, a $4 million profit halfway through the year. So that's good. Then I went to SWCD that evening. Had more budget talks there. They've got a pretty healthy reserve right now, and the question is, what is the right reserve? So Michael looked up kind of some guidelines through Bowser on what they would recommend for reserve amounts, which is quite a bit lower than what they got. They have about an 18-month reserve. And what was it? Bowser was recommending more like half a year.
3 to 6 months, yeah.
Yeah. So that, I'm going to take that with me either to the next meeting or forward that on for some of the, because they don't really know. I mean, those members don't see other SWCDs and talk about that. So I think it's just good for them to know this is the guidelines, Anyway, then on the 15th, then I did run out to the fair after that meeting for half hour, got something to eat and visited a little bit. So 15th, I had a personnel committee meeting for Minden Prairie, virtual, and then I also meet with Tara because I'm still chairing the Minden Prairie board. So we do a pre-meeting, touch base over the agenda. And then today we will have that meeting this afternoon. So that's it.
Thank you. July 2nd, we had our work session and board meeting. July 6th, I had a copy with the commissioner. Also attended the Front of City Parade down in Richmond, got walked through. Except he was working pretty hard down there.
It's hot, wasn't it?
It was more, I had to run a couple days.
Yeah.
Stopped and shook any hands, and you had to run to catch up.
Yeah. Gotta wear your track shoes.
On the 8th, the Arts Council meeting was canceled, so I was able to attend the open house at the fair. On the 10th and 11th, I attended the fair. I also, on the 11th, I had a Safe Courts and Security meeting with Judge Hudson, Chief Judge Hudson, and the committee that's involved in that. 13th, coffee with the commissioner, and worked the Waseca Area Foundation Fair booth that day. And then last night I attended the Neighborhood Service Center meeting. Interesting fact, they served, they, in the month of June, they gave 12,692 pounds of food at the Neighborhood Service Center just in June. They served 434 households and 871 individuals. Just in the month of June. That brings us up to date with our work session today.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Sure.
And with everyone else on Tuesday the 2nd, 8 a.m. work session, board meeting at 9:30. That evening, I did go to the City Hall meeting with Chris Howard. He presented them some information about Ditch 15-1 and the Gator Lake issues. Wednesday the 3rd, I was in Michael's office to meet with the sheriff on budget. That Monday evening, we went down to the fair for the fair board and had some good eats. Wednesday the 10th, Public Works at 8 a.m. Brings us to today, 7 a.m. with the sheriff, 8 a.m. work session. That's what I have. And some phone calls in between.
Commissioner Hargis.
Yes.
Did you get the feeling like when you were there at the city council meeting, when Chris Howard was presenting, I'm sure he did a good presentation, but is there a complete, I think there needs to be a continual education for the public.
Well,
For
he's
the public.
met with,
And,
he's going to continue to meet with Carl.
right. So I just heard a few, I talked to a few people that either had watched it or had been there.
Right.
And their eyes were, opened up pretty good, but that sort of system,
There was a lot of information.
understanding water, how it flows, where it can go. So, yeah, I'm glad you did that.
I did get feedback from the city manager that the council was appreciative of the information and found it helpful, so it was good.
Those thoughts will be on the
Yeah, exactly.
Anything else to come before this board? Move to adjourn. Second. Motion by Commissioner Kukovic, second by Commissioner Milbrath. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 11:33.